Have you read any of the released Epstein emails? It definitely means he's covering up for someone, you know?
Right. Exactly.
So he's not innocent. He gave a BJ to Bubba, and so everyone was like, oh, well, that's Bill Clinton. That's Bill Clinton's nickname is Bubba.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Doom Scroll podcast. It has been a while. Apologies, but we do have legitimate reasons. So before we dive into that, though, Calvin, how's it going?
Yeah,
It's going.
it's going. I would say, you know, besides everything that's happening in the world, you know, life's thrown me a couple wrenches this last couple weeks, especially most recently. So, you know, I'm just trying to make the best of it and not let the stress get to me. And you know, we're here, and I think that's all that matters.
At what point does we're here, that's all that matters, not work anymore?
when we're not here, that's when it's like I can't do it anymore. It's
Yeah.
but no, it's like, you know what, this is important, I enjoy it, so I'm here.
Yeah, it's definitely been eventful a few weeks for me as well, which is another reason we've just, you know, not been able to record, connect. Yeah. Do you want to fill in with your craziness first? Do you want me to go?
I mean, mostly it's been just working like crazy. I think the last 2 weeks of October, I was traveling out of state nonstop, so I was gone. And then, you know, in my life, since my wife and I moved to Florida and came back, when we moved, we made the decision to sell my wife's car, so we weren't transporting two cars over, with the intention of buying a car when we got over there. Never really had the funds to do that, just because, you know, how the world is, and, you know, living paycheck to paycheck all the time. And so we came back here, and still, you know, have been trying to like figure out how to get another car. So it's been 4 years without two cars. And I work, you know, every day, you know, Monday through Friday. So I'm gone with the car all the time, and my wife's kind of just stuck. So we finally just got a car about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Found a really good deal from a local shop in town that, you know, buys auction cars, and then they like refix them up and do all this stuff, so they're supposed to be good to go. So we got that, and it'd been driving fine. There was a couple of things that needed to be like fixed on it. I think it was like the motor mount needed to be replaced. It had a little bit of a shake or something, but it wasn't anything that we were told was concerning. And so yesterday we had a wedding in the Bay Area we were supposed to be going to, and my wife had just put gas in the car. So my wife's car was full of gas. My car had like a half tank in it. We're kind of tight on money. So like, well, let's just take your car. You get better. Your car is a Honda. It gets much better gas mileage than my car does. You know, let's not, you know, waste money. So we're on our way to the Bay Area. We're like 2 hours away from home. And all of a sudden, like, the car just like starts kind of like jolting and shaking and like losing momentum, and it's not, you know, accelerating. And so, you know, the engine light came on, and I was like, fuck, you know, so we pulled over on the side of the road, ended up, you know, waiting for a tow truck for an hour. And then, you know, of course it happens to be, you know, a day where it's raining. So, you know, standing out in the rain, and, it's towards the end of the day. So it's dark by the time we get dropped off at the shop. Then we have to walk, you know, a couple blocks in the rain to like the closest, like, I think we found like a Ross and then like a Chipotle to go sit down, and waited for a family member to drive all the way from Sac to come pick us up and take us home. Missed the wedding, of course. And, you know, so that really sucked. But now, like today, it's been dealing with all the logistics of like trying to figure out how we're going to get the car that's now 2 hours away in a shop, and bring it back because the shop that sold us the car said that they'll fix anything that's under warranty, but they won't go get the car or cover the tow, so we have to take care of all that. And it's just like you kind of hoping for a day off to just kind of recuperate from everything that's been going on. And life's just like, nope, we're just going to throw you another curveball to deal with. So yeah, that's been me. But I know you have been dealing with, a lot of health stuff, if you want to fill people in on that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's like my body is doing what your car is doing. I'm just kidding, but also, did you get like a did you have like a diagnosis? Like, it sounds like it's like a transmission related issue.
Yeah, I mean, the shop that we got dropped off was closed for the weekend, so they won't even be open till Monday. But I have had a car that did something very similar to that, and it was the spark plug. So I think that's what it is. So I mean, it shouldn't be like a crazy repair, depending on the shop. I mean, this is supposed to be covered, so it's just going to be the pain of transporting the car. But yeah, it's annoying, I mean, you kind of get what you get when you get a car that car is 20 years old, so we're lucky that the shop that we got it from, that they do a full warranty and will cover it. And if if there's still issues or whatever, like, they'll give us our money back or whatever. So we're lucky in that sense. We're not totally fucked. It's just it was a scary situation. My wife has a lot of anxiety too. So when the car's shaking on the side of a rural highway, there's nowhere near, and we're like stuck on the side of the road. Semis are driving by, and it's scary. And so it was just and then you're thinking of all the financial stuff, and it was a really hard day yesterday. But we made it through. And I think the biggest thing is that we were just like, one, we're safe. It didn't happen in a situation where we were hurt, we were injured. And I kind of, I'm not religious or anything, but I do believe that things happen for a reason. And my wife was supposed to photograph a wedding later this week in the Bay Area. And so, my thought is, that's kind of a sign that, this happened this way, instead of you being by yourself driving to the Bay Area and this happening and then having to figure this all out on your own. As well, on your way to work and not knowing if you're going to be able to make it to a wedding, because that's not, something where you can just call out of. So, everything happened for a reason. It just sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you guys supposed to be like working the wedding, or was it just a wedding you were going to?
No, it was just, we were guests. So, yeah, exactly. So, at least it wasn't that, we felt really bad, obviously, when you're having a wedding, you're paying for these people to eat, and celebrate with you. So we felt bad not being able to make it. But even where we had to pull off on the road, we're 2 hours from home, but we were still like almost an hour from where the wedding was. So, we probably could have taken an Uber that would have cost, like an arm and a leg to get there. But, yeah, it was just crazy. And then, the people who got married, we got a message from them, this morning, because my wife messaged them letting them know we weren't going to make it. And right after their ceremony, their car broke down too. So it was just kind of something in the air where, everyone's cars were just happening to break down. So yeah.
Well, at least they were understanding, and especially since, it happened to them right after. But it's funny, that's always the excuse people use to get out of things. Be like, oh, I'm sorry, I had car troubles. You're like, no, fuck, I like legit had car troubles, I promise.
My wife's like taking a story, like, taking a photo of us on the side of the road, just because like, they didn't want anyone to think that we were lying. And I'm like, no, I mean, just things happen, and, I think, unless you're whoever you're going to see is just a complete asshole, which we're lucky the people that we were, they're really a really great couple. But life happens, and if there was any way for us to make it there, we would have made it. But there's also people that will just, like you said, like kind of last minute be like, oh, I don't really want to go, so I'm just gonna be like, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, that wasn't our situation.
Bummer. Well, I'm glad it wasn't a wedding you were working. That could have been potentially much worse, especially for, financial reasons.
Yeah,
But also, that it wasn't one of you by yourselves.
yeah,
But I know that still sucks.
yeah.
So yeah. Well, unlike the body front of mine, so I've been basically getting random fevers since I'd say like middle end of September. No, I think like the first one I had was like September 18th, and I remember specifically because I was walking to like get some blood work done, and I was like, I feel like shit. I was just tired,
Hmm.
and then like late, like unfortunately, it wasn't blood work that would like detect anything that was happening. So it was just like iron levels and just like checkup shit, and so got that fever and thought I was getting sick. But then I didn't. And I was just like, oh, that's weird. Okay. Then it happened again, I think like uh 2 weeks later. And then I was like, definitely thought I was getting sick, like 102 fever. And I was like, oh man, I thought like my body fought something off and I escaped sickness, but I was wrong. God damn it. But then again, it never developed into anything. And that was like a pretty high fever to not get. I thought I was getting the flu for sure.
Hmm.
Because I tested for COVID, nothing. And so yeah. And then I was like, well, that was weird. Definitely more drained after that one because it was a little bit more severe. But then the next week it happened again. And so Des was finally like, we're going to the urgent care because this is fucking weird. So did that. They did a bunch of blood work, took some blood cultures, regular like labs that measure inflammatory markers and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And at first, it just, my inflammatory markers were elevated. That like it happens after you have a fever. And but the cultures hadn't grown anything as of yet. I got phone call and messages being like, you're good, and they just referred me to a rheumatologist to see if it was something like autoimmune.
Hmm.
um but then uh like 4 days later, it was actually the early morning of a Thursday, 3 a.m. I get a phone call, which I thought it was actually a phone call for my dad because he had back surgery the day before at the same hospital
Hmm.
that I would go to in case of emergency. And I think my phone at this point had rang like 3 times. And finally, Des was like, I think someone's trying to call you. I was just like, what the fuck? It's like 3 in the
She's like, can
morning.
you just mute your phone?
Yeah, she's just like, what the hell is happening? So like I look and it says like Sud or something. I immediately think, oh, what is something happening with my dad?
Yeah.
Because he had surgery, everything was fine, but you never know. Things happen in the middle of the night. So I pick it up, and they're like, it's Sutter after hours, and I'm transferring you to Dr. blah 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 to tell you about some test results or something. I was just like, okay. And then so transfer me to the other doctor. His name was like Dr. Noble or something, and he's telling me that they found, or that I had a positive blood culture, meaning like you have bacteria in your blood, so you need to go to the ER, get some more tests done, antibiotics or something. Basically, don't wait. Go to the
Hmm.
ER because you don't, bacteria shouldn't be in your blood. And I was just like, are you sure? Like, I feel fine now. I don't have a fever right now. Can I not? Can I just wait? Like, guys can keep sleeping. And he was like, well, if you want to drag your feet, you can, but I would really recommend that you go in. So he's like, the good news is like, it won't be as busy. So I mean, I look over and Des is already dressed and getting ready to go. She's gonna let me stay. No. So she calls her dad to have him come like watch the kids so we can go to the hospital. And then that early morning ER trip to get some more tests run turned into a 7-day hospital stay. Because like they ran more cultures because there's always a possibility of contamination that
Hmm.
can be a thing, so they want to like double check things. um and then because I've been having back pain, I mean, I always have back pain, I've got like herniated discs and shit. I didn't really think anything of it, but of course when you have a fever, everything is more sensitive, and my back,
Yeah.
often feels like it's on fire during fevers. But apparently, because mentioning that, basically they were gonna like kind of let me go, and because I was stable and shit.
Hmm.
But then they did the MRI, and because I had like extensive edema in my L5 vertebrae, they decided that they were going to treat me for discitis osteomyelitis, which is an infection like in your disc space.
Hmm.
And because it like is such a low blood flow area, you have to be on antibiotics longer than if it was just like a typical blood infection, really. Like
Hmm.
if it was sepsis, you wouldn't even need to be on IV antibiotics that long. But since it's like in my disc space, it takes longer to get rid of things, in which I've been having fevers still, like uh, every 7 to 9 days at this point. So it's been a week since my last fever, which is why we didn't record last week, because I just
Yeah.
randomly got a fever. But we're hoping that it's just my body still clearing part of the infection, because it takes longer to do so. Um, but the fevers only last about 24 hours. But it is draining. Like I feel
Hmm.
tired for the next few days, and like my inflammation markers are elevated. For days following, it takes a while for them to return to normal. But anyways, so in the hospital, they had me on IV antibiotics for like 5 days. I thought I was going to go home, but no, they decided they were going to do a PICC line and keep me on IV antibiotics for another 6 weeks. So they're like, put in a PICC line, and then 2 days later let me go home, because they like to like watch you after they put a PICC line in, and
Hmm.
they have to teach you how to like do it yourself when you get home, or have your spouse do it. So they trained Des how to like do my at home antibiotic infusions, and I have like a home nurse coming once a week to draw labs and like flush my line, especially if it gets clogged or anything,
Hmm.
which so they always just like, oh yeah, and they change your bandage to keep everything clean
Fresh.
and it's
Yeah.
sterile, so you don't get another infection from having a PICC line. Because the PICC line, so it's like, if people are watching this, cool. So it goes from all the way in your bicep across your shoulder, and then like down, like next to your heart. So I can't work out, especially upper body. Can't do like repetitive movements or push and pull more than 10
Hmm.
pounds with the arm that has the PICC line. And then I can't like do cardio, can't have my heart rate up for extended periods of time. So I can do legs, but like lightly, to make sure it's not like getting my heart rate up too
Hmm.
high as if it was cardio. Because sometimes leg day, turns into cardio.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge mental mind fuck, because usually if it's a surgery, I have time to prepare for it, and I will be as consistent as possible leading up to it, and almost be to the point where I'm ready to take a break because I'm tired, because I've been pushing myself hard. But I didn't have the time to do this, and I already felt like shit, so I was not as consistent with training as I normally was, even leading up to it. So I'm just kind of like, the muscle loss is tragic.
Yeah.
Like it feels tragic at this point. And it's definitely been really hard mentally, because I feel like I was already in a rut, and then
Hmm.
like getting hit with this. And I'm just trying to take it as like a different type of phase in training to mentally challenge myself, because I'm like, you know what, I challenge myself physically so much, it's become something that I have felt like I've gained comfort within the discomfort of pushing myself physically. So maybe it's just the universe being like, hey, let's try something new to challenge ourselves. And even just not being able to work out, I feel like is this exposure therapy, or just learning to try to slow down and rest is exposure therapy, especially in a time where, I'm not going to lie, like business hasn't been great. The economy is not great. People don't have money, or they're just not willing to spend it. And I feel like this is the worst time to kind of be in a rut or not be able to train, because usually when this happens, I want to be firing in all cylinders and make sure that I'm doing everything I can to support my business, to make sure it stays running. And just not having the energy and having to slow down is very, very rough. But hopefully after the forced rest and the new lessons that come from this. Um, Hopefully I'll look back one day and know why. Like you mentioned, you think everything happens for a reason. And I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, and some people hate that saying and whatever, but uh, I do think it's kind of true. It's always kind of been true for me. I'll look back and be like, that fucking sucked. I'm glad I am not in that spot, but I definitely learned some things and I grew in that situation. I got stronger. So that's what I'm trying to like focus on that aspect of it. And that was way longer than I was trying to make it.
No, I totally get it. I mean, kind of, I mean, not that I would, ever be like, oh, we got to record. So, suck it up, brother, but, was it last weekend? I think. Yeah. Cause so the first week, the end of October, the first week of November, right when I got back from my last work trip, I threw my back out. So most of that week and last weekend, I was just on the couch. I ended up going to urgent care, had to be put on like muscle relaxers and high ibuprofen. But it's just a a reminder of as we're getting older, we can't really. It's easy to push ourselves and not stop and actually listen to our bodies and and all those things. So we're getting to that point where it's like, we can't just ignore things anymore. Like I can't, I'm, working, 10 to 12-hour days holding a camera in front of me, not taking a break. It definitely takes a toll on your body. And when I've been really bad recently, just, mainly, stress in life, like not, working out and staying up on physical shape and eating the right things. I've been having stomach problems for probably like 3-4 months now, to where I'm not sleeping at night, and just all those things compound and you ignore them, and it's just it just makes it worse. So like I'm so glad that at least Des was there to like force you to go to the hospital, because I know how you are. I know you're kind of stubborn, and you just would have been like, I'll wait, and then next thing we know, we're getting a in memoriam of Cody, because he just ignored shit and didn't do anything.
Died due to stubbornness. Yeah,
right. And it's also like, I mean, you live with 2 young kids too, so it's really easy to just justify of like, oh, I'm just getting sick because kids are coming in. Kids get sick all the time. That's just what's happening. So it's easy to ignore that there's probably something more serious going on.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think just not being used to my body rebelling the way, it did, has been, or whatever. And you're just kind of like, no, this surely my body is fine. But I think
like, how many days do you like on a normal week? How many days do you work out?
More recently, I took it down definitely because of stress and feeling run down. So I was only going about 3 to 4 days per week at the point that I went.
Only 3 to 4 days,
which for me, like, I mean, 3 is much less. I love to do 5 if I can, but I had purposely reduced it down to 4. But even 4 was too much for me. I was probably hitting 3 tops, and it felt like shit. I felt like shit, and I felt like a slacker, but I didn't understand that I actually had something physical going on. So I'm like, I need to really learn to try to listen to my body, because I'll just brush it off as something in my head and be like, come on, you don't have motivation. That doesn't matter. You got to do it anyways,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, hopefully once all this goes through, is you'll be able to start getting back to where you were before, or at least a good compromise to where your body can, you can feel like you're making that progress again and not feel like you're just, pushing,
Right. Yeah, exactly. It'll push me to train smarter, not always harder, and create better work-life balance. I think that's definitely probably even the bigger lesson that I'm learning, because a lot of stuff was work stress, financial stress due to the business mentor bullshit that's rolled over into a bad economy.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's just hitting harder. And so I'm trying to work on those mental challenges and try to calm my nervous system down. And I think When you're stressed, your immune system is down. I don't think I would be in this situation if I was taking care of myself,
Mhm.
honestly. So now just trying to do it with more intention. I mean, social media and on top of it, like while we're here talking about doom scrolling, that was one thing when I was in the hospital. Like, I was not doom scrolling. It was
Mhm.
I obviously had big distractions in the
Mhm.
moment. But there was a lot of opportunity to doom scroll while you're waiting in the ER, waiting for doctors. But instead, like it, I just pushed it all out of my mind and started playing this video game. It's like color blocks. And so it's
Mhm.
really addicting. So it's like something that keeps me busy when I normally just like turn to doom scrolling, which I still do, obviously, because we're going to talk about shit, but it's more controlled and not out of control like I
Yeah.
feel like it was. So it keeps your hands busy, keeps you engaged, so you're not just doing it to do it. So life hack for anyone looking to pull your doom scroll time down:
Go to
download
the
a
hospital.
game, go to the hospital, get on some strong antibiotics. No, just kidding. But yeah, so trying to learn how to slow down. We'll see how long that lasts and if I learn my lesson. But that's the point right now.
Yeah, my for my birthday, my wife got me an old Game Boy Color and a
Oh,
bunch of like
nice.
the original Pokemon games. So that's kind of been like my step away from the phone, is like I'm playing that. So like I can't be doing multiple things at once, and it's
That's true.
that's definitely nice to just have that kind of separation of like I'm gonna focus on something and I'm not looking at my phone.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, games. It's a great way to de-stress,
Mm-hmm.
guys, as long as the games aren't stressful themselves. But yeah, should we like get into our topic? I know I was long-winded with that story there.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Do you want to start things off with
Sure.
our first topic?
Yeah. So, covering, what we do all the time, we've got a lot of Epstein updates. So we're going to talk about, let's see, fresh off House Oversight's November 12th email dump showing Epstein and Trump swapping notes on girls and Mar-a-Lago, and some, potential BJs with someone named Bubba. The scandals fracturing MAGA, Trump's directing DOJ to probe enemies like the Clintons, but survivors call it a smokescreen to bury his own logs, because he was 26 Lolita Express flights. Bipartisan push for full release, has a discharge petition vote Tuesday, November 18th, and could force unredacted files if it hits 218 signatures. Big thing is, Marjorie Taylor Greene has kind of flipped, and it's kind of gotten bigger than it was. We have been seeing, things from like Marjorie Taylor Greene about, her kind of not going with what the administration wants, and pushing for like the Epstein release. It kind of came to a head the other day or yesterday, and feels like it's all the time, where Trump has like officially like denounced her because of her support for the release of the Epstein files. So that's a huge big thing. Um, we should have the votes to release it. I believe that still has to then go to the House to approve it, and then if it gets approved, then it would go to Trump's desk, which he could veto it. But if you veto it, that kind of really shows what your motivations are.
Hmm.
And I don't know. You have two, like I said, you have two kids in your house. Have you heard the whole like 6-7 thing that's always going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I the funny thing is that if he does veto it, the amount of votes that the House or the Senate needs to unveto it is 67. So it's kind of a little interesting little hit there. Um, but yeah, there's also talks of, because Trump has now ordered the DOJ to open an investigation into the Democrats who are supposedly in the Epstein files, only the Democrats. That people are now saying that that is the way to keep the Epstein files from being released, because if there is an open case, no prosecutor is going to allow those files to be released, because that would be a bias. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I feel all sorts of ways. I've definitely seen, yeah, I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene and her appearances on CNN and all that stuff is wild. I just saw a clip of her today apologizing for the toxic politics. And she apologized for not addressing Trump attacking people sooner, until it happened to her. And
Yeah.
I take those things with, okay, I'll give her a little bit of credit for coming out and still standing strong and wanting the release of the Epstein files. But at the same time, I do feel like she's grifting in the sense
Mhm.
that she's realizing and waking up. And I think a lot of people are going to follow this strategy. Some already are, where they're kind of backing away from Trump and backing away from being affiliated with him due to the Epstein files, but also just due to most of this presidency not being what his base voted for.
Yeah.
And so I think she's starting to see that being affiliated with him is not going to be something that gives her an advantage in the future.
Yeah, and she is,
So
I believe she is up for re-election
yeah,
next year.
exactly.
So
Yeah. So I think she's realizing that focusing on affordability, all the people that want to have a career in politics at this point are starting to make that the biggest talking point and kind of starting to go away from talking about Trump and him being bad or talking about Biden and how awful he was. Instead of throwing around other names, they're starting talking about real fucking problems that Americans are dealing with. And that's what they need to be talking about. I think they're finally realizing that, but and it also makes it harder to determine who's being real or who's just being fake to get votes.
yeah.
So there's always going to be a grift. You're always going to have to be cautiously optimistic with things like this. I still do think it's a positive thing because there are going to be others who follow and they'll do so publicly.
Mhm.
And then starts the downfall of the Trump cults. However, the MAGA movement is still not dead. I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene is creating a different, more publicly kind or quieter form of white Christian nationalism. And that doesn't make it any less dangerous or awful. So again, I give her a little credit, but not too much because she's still who she is and she still holds the belief she does. And she can talk about, wanting to bridge the divide and all get along, but I feel like she's just trying to save her own ass at the moment. So her actions will speak louder than her words. And so far, her actions and words up to this point have been not great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure. Now, have you read any of the released Epstein emails?
a little bit, yes. I've seen some floating around on Twitter threads and reels. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, there was, I mean, I wouldn't say there wasn't anything that was shock and awe, but there wasn't anything that we didn't expect. We obviously knew that there was a Trump connection. We've known that for a while. I think, the Putin, BJ, whoever it is, first it was supposed to be, it's the name is he apparently gave a BJ to Bubba, and so everyone was like, oh, well, that's Bill Clinton. That's Bill Clinton's nickname is Bubba.
Yeah.
I did see that this was an email between Epstein and Epstein's brother. Epstein's brother has spoken out and has said that no, it is not about Bill Clinton, but did not deny that there's a photo of Trump giving a BJ to Bubba. We just don't know who Bubba is. I did see that there's a connection. It's some sort of it's like a banking, like a Goldman Sachs type thing. Someone was named Bubba, something like that. Also, Delane's horse apparently was named Bubba. So, that could be just a whole nother twist in itself right
Oh
there.
shit.
That's, just the, I mean, if there's a picture out there, I don't want to see it. I think just
I don't either.
the picture in my head is, starring enough. But there's, talks about, that Trump obviously didn't know what Epstein was doing, that Epstein spent Thanksgiving with Trump while Trump was in office, while he was president in his first thing, so, I mean, if you take away, like, even though there's not hard evidence of Trump doing anything, the fact that Trump has continuously said that he didn't know the guy, he had no relationship with the guy, and it's like, well, obviously you guys, like, he spent Thanksgiving with you. You guys have been like sending cards back and forth. Apparently, you took a girlfriend from him that was whatever. It's just, if you're gonna lie about something like that, it's like there's something there, whatever. And it could, I mean, best case scenario for Trump is that no, he wasn't involved with the minors that Epstein was sex trafficking, right? But it definitely means he's covering up for someone,
Right. Exactly.
So he's not innocent. I kind of side message was, I think I sent you the Megyn Kelly video where she's talking about Epstein, and well, she didn't really think he was a pedophile, or someone she was talking to didn't really think he was a pedophile because he liked young women, but women that were just of that barely legal age, like 15. And you're just like, I'm seeing more people like try and justify, like, if they're under 10, then it's pedophilia. But if it's, a 14 or 15-year-old, then it's fine. It's like, no, that's still pedophilia. Like, why? I don't know. I feel like this world's just going to shit.
Right. And it's still unacceptable regardless of. So I think apparently the real definition of a pedophile in the DSM-5 is someone under 12 or something. So there is like a definition that has a cutoff, but it's just like, okay, but do you need a fucking definition to tell you that you can't fuck someone that's underage? Like, because you can't illegal. Exactly. You don't need a diagnosis to tell you it's wrong. You need the law and your own fucking morals. So if you don't have those, then I'm sorry, I don't want you in my administration. I don't want you running the government. So yeah, there was also some things that I saw for possible potential, like who Bubba was. This is by a journalist I follow on X. Her name's Amber Woods. Definitely check out her shit. She's constantly updating on the Epstein files specifically, and she's like helping the survivors give their stories and stuff. But so Virginia Guffrey testified about one of her sexual abusers, French model scout Jean-Luc Brunel. So from April 5th to April 5th, 2016, there was maybe it was in one of the transcripts or emails, or I don't know. But it says, who is Bubba? Answer, Jean-Luc Brunel. How do you know him? He was modeling agent that Ghislaine told me to go and have sex with. So it could be him, potentially. I don't even know if that guy's still alive. He would have to be pretty old by now. So next option is Trump's old radio beef buddy, Ted Clem, is better known as Bubba the Love Sponge. He's the guy whose wife tape nearly tanked a campaign. No flights with his name, but Epstein's circle was filthy, and Clem fits that vibe. There's a slim chance Mark Epstein was using Bubba as a Southern dude slang. I say slim because it doesn't fit their typical conversation style. When Mark brings up the subject, Jeffrey actually responds in Yiddish. So yeah, not usually the way that they speak when it comes to slang. So let's see. Trump does have at least one Bubba in his social orbit, Bubba Watson, the Masters champ and LIV golf defector, who's been gushing, I love that man since 2022.
I mean, he likes to talk about, who was it? Was it Arnold Palmer or something? That was another guy that he was talking about. He was like, well, he has a big dick, great dick. How would you know?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? And then there's also footage of him doing some questionable things. Like, you know how guys kind of like slap each other's asses? I think he was like literally like tapping on Clinton's fucking dick bulge in his pants, and people.
Oh no, he gripped it. There was grippage.
There was some pattage, and it was a lot. It was a lot to see. So that's another thing that brings you like him and Clinton have got to be close. And for the same question that Republicans have of why did the Democrats not try to release the Epstein files for the past 4 years or 5, whatever? Since Biden was in the White House, and well, I think there's other like legal reasons that he couldn't, but outside of that, because I do think that there are Democrats that are implicated in them, being the Clintons. But guess what? Democrats don't give a fuck. We are not worshiping the Clintons, never did. And if anyone in government or anyone in general has been fucking around with Jeffrey Epstein, deserves to have what justice needs to be served. So if there are Democrats that are implicated in it, they need to be punished for it, just like anyone else. I think that's the biggest difference, is where Republicans are trying to defend their, dear leader right now, where Democrats are just like, we don't care who it takes down. It just needs to happen because this is not good. We cannot let this slide. What kind of example is this setting up for other people who have ridiculous amounts of money, and they're probably all fucking involved, already.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I don't know how I got on that tangent.
No, I mean, I think also like Epstein's not the only like, pedophile or, sexual abuser that he's, been friends with. I've heard, there's Epstein, there was someone else, I can't remember who it was, but also like he was very close with Diddy. He went to a lot of Diddy parties, and he's even talked about, there's been rumors that he's going to like help pardon or, lessen Diddy's sentence, so.
Yeah.
He obviously, we know where his morals fall. We've known it from the moment where he did the grab him by the pussy, talk. We knew, and it sucks for, it's hard for, people who have gone to bat for him, so hard to have any credibility, because from that, all the way from back that moment, if you justified that talking, if you justified the way he's been, like,
yeah, good luck.
Yeah, you're kind of a piece of shit,
Yeah. And that's why I'm just like, at this point, if Republicans that are associated with him or have been MAGA, that sort of thing, if they're still trying to defend him, they're gonna start noticing they're gonna look very silly. There's always gonna be those diehards that just can't turn away from it because that their ego is too big, and that means that they were fooled or that they made a mistake, and a lot of people are not willing to admit that. So I'm still kind of like, anyone who's willing to admit that, I respect you for that. I know that there is a lot of cult-like thinking within politics, both sides at the moment, and it's hard to like keep yourself accountable and consider other things, think outside the box, and not follow what your group think is thinking. And so it's like, regardless of the motive, or future motives, I'm just happy for that anyone will, vocalize their opposition to Trump's shit at the moment. I'll take anything.
Yeah.
So
should we move on to the next topic?
Yeah. So it's not any lighter, really, but do you want to go over the shutdown and where we're at with that? Because we know, so after 46 days, the longest ever shutdown in history, topping Trump's original longest shutdown in history, which, I sense a pattern, no? Anywho, he wanted to blame that all on Democrats, but we'll get to that in a second. So Trump's previous record was a 35-day record that happened in 2018/19. But anywho, now we're on 46. So Senate passed a short-term CR November 10th. So that means that there's funding through, it says funding through November 15th. That would be like yesterday. So no wall cash or health subsidies, but it averts total collapse. So House votes Wednesday, November 12th. So apparently that already took place. Am I reading old news? So Trump signed to fully reopen the government on the 12th. So yeah, basically the Dems were trying to hold out for Obamacare or, Affordable Care Act extensions on subsidies for healthcare, because that's going to have subsidies expiring for 20 million people. And that makes premiums essentially double, if not more. And it's going to make healthcare not affordable for a lot of people, myself included. And it's a lot. So they were trying to really hold out for that. But unfortunately, just enough Democrats decided to cross the line and surrender. It's hard to know what is right in these moments, to be real, because I mean, what would be right would be the president not trying to stop SNAP benefits for people during the shutdown, not trying to like use or hold Americans captive and use us as leverage to get what they want. When the Democrats, they kept saying that the Democrats just wanted health care for illegals. That is not. That was the Republican talking point to get people to blame the Democrats. But Democrats were trying to keep health subsidies from expiring for people to be able to afford their health care.
And that was one of the first things where we saw the Republicans, because she was saying like, no, this is right. People are going to get fucked.
Yeah. And that's where it all, pretty much started. She had some things previous on the Epstein files she was going against, but this just kind of topped it off. And I think it's because it affected her personally. Her children they used the ACA and they were going to have their premiums go up. So she was like, wait a second. Oh no, this affects me. But the biggest thing that I felt fucking pissed about was Trump trying to take SNAP benefits away from people when he's still putting so much money into ICE at the same exact time. And it's just like, why? Like any normal president, I feel like, would even pause what is going on with ICE just so he could make sure that people are getting fed. But ICE only kept going. They were the ones like still getting paid and shit. And then we've got, TSA not getting paid, military not getting paid, air traffic controllers. Like there was about to be some real fucking shit that was going to happen and go down with airports and traveling. So I feel like that's why some of the Democrats were like, uncle, we surrender. Just because
it was only Democrats that are either going to be retiring or are safe from election. So it wasn't anything where it was like a moral high ground. They were safe and just whatever. But I did see that because it was brought to the Supreme Court whether or not the SNAP benefits should be allowed to go, because there was supposed to be a contingency fund for this exact thing, that if the government was shut down, that there was still contingency funds ready that could be used so that people wouldn't lose their SNAP benefits.
Yep.
Well, kind of a smart thing that is it Ketanji P? Is it Jackson? Brown?
Brown, I think, is the last name.
Brown. Yeah. So she signed the ruling so it would go back to the states, right? But in doing that, it was actually a really smart move, because it actually, in her report, it highlighted the fact that those contingency funds were gone.
Exactly.
So we don't know what happened to that money that was supposed to be specifically for this situation. but yeah, it's just a horrible thing. We're already in an economy where food is so expensive. And you've got people who are government employees who are working for over a month without a paycheck, not able to pay their rent on time. I really hope that, you know, all of those people didn't, had landlords or, situations that were, um, empathetic and didn't, charge them late fees or, potentially lose housing over it. But it's just shitty when you're playing with, people's lives like that. Um, and to the point where, people were saying, just cover this, just do this, and Trump is suing to not have that happen just because he wants people to suffer to put more pressure so that the Democrats cave. Like, that is just such disgusting behavior.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's and then they finally got it through. They opened up the government, but I know Mike Johnson said something about that they were gonna look into it. Wasn't sure if it was still gonna go through, but at the last minute, when they were approving to open up the government, they threw in that that little part in the bill where uh the 8 Republicans who had their phone records reviewed because of January 6th could now sue the government, like just self-serving shit where they could sue the government for $500,000 per infraction. The fact that like that went through, and I'm just so disappointed. Like, I feel like that should have been something that the Democrats, who, I mean, I get their point of like, we need to get people paid. We're having, flight issues. We're having people losing, whatever. I totally get that. But if they didn't read it, if they didn't look at it, close enough and they just, signed it, it's kind of shame on them because that's that's just horrible.
Yeah, for sure. I also saw that they snuck in like making THC from hemp products illegal, so like Delta 8 and stuff like that, which is going to be it's going to be a huge hit to hemp farmers, and it's going to cost people a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fucking bullshit because I mean, I use Delta 8 gummies to help me sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And because I can't handle THC, like regular THC, it's just too strong for me. So that's gonna fucking blow if that goes through. It's like, oh, sorry, all you can do is regular weed. Like, make it
Mm-hmm.
make sense. THC from hemp or from another part of it shouldn't be any different.
Yeah.
And then there was, what else did they do? I know that there was still nothing that the Dems were, holding the line for that got put through. Is just that they were going to vote on it again, I think in December. So we're probably going to go through this again. And unfortunately, I'm just anticipating insurance not being affordable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my wife has my wife's epileptic, and needs, daily medication, because they have, severe seizures if they're not on their medication. So, and on top of the fact, we're on, weekly medication, just to stay, whatever. But it's so scary thinking of, like if I had to go without my medication, like, yeah, that would suck, and there would be, health issues, due to it, but, I would survive,
For a while.
for a while, but like, if my wife doesn't have their medication for a couple days, that could kill them, and so it's just really scary thinking about the, we're a month and a half away from, those premiums potentially jumping up and not being able to afford, insurance, and not just medications, not being able to afford, if we have to go to the hospital. So like it's just, it's a scary situation. And I don't understand how no one, besides Marjorie Taylor Greene, apparently no one on the Republican side, cares about the millions of people who are going to suffer from this. And they even had, they sent, something like $1 billion or $2 billion or something like that to Argentina, and it's like Democrats even proposed like, let's take some of that money and, like that would cover, those subsidies for, X amount of months or years or whatever. And nope, it's just like, there's no care in the world. Um, it sucks.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And that's one of the things that people are kind of like moving away from Trump on his base, especially, uh, is that they're saying we thought he was going to be America first, and he's been anything but that.
Mm.
Mostly, they'll talk about what what we're doing for Israel, or how they're running our country. There's a big divide in the Republican Party right now, or the conservative side of things, because no one can agree. The Epstein files have definitely, thrown a wedge in their happy little culty party. So they're kind of breaking off and finding or creating like new sects of the cults. But yeah, it's what was I saying?
Sex cults.
Oh yeah, sex cults. Oh yeah. As far as nope, I still don't got it. Whatever I was saying. Um, uh, something about the bill, and we didn't get. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I was at. Brain fog. It's the antibiotics. Sorry. uh, but yeah. So the snap stuff, bunch of bullshit. I No one should vote for a president that is willing to keep their American people captive and essentially starving people in order to make a point or use it for political gain. It's just not okay. I would, if I found out that any other Democratic president wanted to do that or has used that in the past, then I'd be like, fuck them.
Yeah.
So I just can't believe that people can actively support him doing what he's doing and making it a point to actually go to the Supreme Court to block SNAP benefits is beyond. Like I didn't even see Trump doing that shit. I mean, maybe I did, but like, not really. I don't know. It's just so blatantly obvious that he does not care for people that need help, and he just that the whole base, him, just thinks that people that need SNAP or whatever are just lazy assholes, just being leeches on the system and all that stuff. And like, no one can afford to survive in this country right now unless unless you're already rich and you've been rich for a while, or you got lucky and you're an entrepreneur that was able to ride the coattails of the internet when shit was good. But I'm even seeing so many creators and shit burn out right now because of what it takes to maintain that. With the algorithms made the way they are now, it's a shit show. It's a wild card. You're gambling every day you make a piece of content. You don't know if it's gonna hit right or not. You don't know if you're gonna lose subscribers, get more subscribers, or if no one's gonna see it at all. And yeah, so that's another tangent. But I've seen so many creators either struggling with like autoimmune shit, or just like induced by stress, or they just like fall off. It's because it's they're burned out.
You look at like Casey Neistat. I remember watching a video that he did. I want to say it was like a year or two ago, but it was like a day in his life, and like he gets up at like 4 a.m. and he starts editing videos that he filmed, the day before, and then immediately goes into like, he goes to the gym, he eats food, and then he's vlogging for the whole day or whatever. And then doesn't go to bed until like midnight. So someone like him who is a successful creator, he's going off of like 4 hours of sleep every single day just to maintain, that status, and you do have some creators who, don't have to put that much into it, that are just lucky, but for most it's more than a full-time job, it's a
Oh
life.
yeah. Oh yeah.
um so yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and part of the thing too is you don't see Casey. I mean, he'll make the occasional video, occasional, and it's a surprise when you see it because they're so few and far in between. There is no consistency with it.
Hmm.
But he didn't make videos at all for quite some time because he got burned the fuck out, and he
Hmm.
literally was making a vlog every day for over a year. But that was his schedule, like what you
Yeah.
explained, because he also did all his own editing. He didn't have a
Hmm.
team doing shit for him. That's another thing to keep in mind. So that was sustainable for Casey fucking Neistat for like a year and some change.
Hmm.
Not sustainable for pretty much anyone besides Casey Neistat because he has that energy. He's got a lot of energy, and
Hmm.
even he got burned out.
Yeah.
But you look at other creators and they have whole fucking teams, and that's how they don't burn out. But they even do, even with teams, because it just gets more and more intense. It never gets easier.
Hmm.
And then when you have a team, you have to worry about paying. You have payroll, you got employees. Like it is all a lot to own your own business. And I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent exactly. As we're using the platform, like I don't have anything against the internet. I think I have a problem with how it's painted, and so many kids these days want to grow up and be YouTubers, or and I get that there's this appeal to it. It's exciting. You
Hmm.
make your own hours. You work for yourself. You make videos. It's all fun and games, but they're really not showing the behind the scenes of
Yeah.
like the inner torture of creating. Because you have to, because your income depends on it.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's the best way to just ruin creating.
Yeah.
So
Well,
just
and
be
also like
careful.
99% of, creators out there are fake, like, especially like you watch people who are like, quote unquote lifestyle, creators. I just watched a video of this woman who was hiking, and, she's on TikTok, and she was like, yeah, I was just finishing a hike, and then I see this Tesla pull up, and this woman gets out like in this like really fancy athletic athletic wear, and she puts her phone up on her tripod, and she goes to the very start of the hike hill, and then she runs down like she just finished it, and like does a vlog. And it's like that's how things really are with a lot of creators. It's
Yeah.
fake.
Yeah.
They're not really doing things, or it's not the natural progression of something. They're redoing take after take to get the one they want. But it's also just created, this environment, just unreality. We think people's lives are a specific way because we're watching people do these things, and it's like, no, that's not real. And it's altering, especially younger people. It's altering how they view how life is going to be, because they think this is real. It's like, no, it's not. Again, this is just a tangent that I don't know how we got onto this place, you know. But I watch, my little nephew, and he's all, on, TikTok, and on the iPad and YouTube and all this stuff. And I had a friend who had a daughter, and she would like come into the kitchen and be like, like, welcome to my channel, like practicing like all this like stuff, where it's like, I don't know. I think it's fun to, it's good to, share your life and your stories and be creative. And, I think especially, talking about, uh, what you did, sharing, your transition and all the hardships you went through with surgeries and stuff like that. That, I feel, one, was very true. You weren't faking shit for, for video likes and stuff, but you gave people value and understanding, what types of surgeries there were, what to expect. And that it wasn't just, I'm going to go and have a surgery and everything's great and happy and my life is perfect. It's like, no, like there's complications that happen. Like these are serious decisions that you make. But that's, something that I really, was really admire about you, is, you put yourself out there in a very real way. that's able to help people. So that's like the small percentage of people who are just trying to share their stories, right? But most of content out there is shit, that we just get wrapped into.
I mean, well, oh, thanks. I appreciate that. But that's also probably why I haven't like vlogged in forever. I've done podcast episodes and stuff, but an actual vlog because I'm just like, I do the same shit every day. My life is boring. So I'm like, maybe I should vlog and show how fucking boring it is if someone was actually being authentic and
Mm-hmm.
playing their actual day to day life instead of just doing shit for clicks and entertainment and likes. Uh, which, kind of makes me want to do it just for that fucking sake to be like,
Mm-hmm.
look, this is real life. If you are bored by it, that means it's real. If you're watching
Yeah.
someone you never get bored by, they're probably doing shit for the entertainment purposes,
Mm-hmm.
and that is it. So that's something to be mindful of when you are subscribing to people or supporting people and stuff like that. I mean, I'm all for supporting creators for sure. Just make sure you know what you're supporting and, be careful. Don't let
Yeah.
people take advantage of your feelings or whatever. And I have nothing against people monetizing their channels and that sort of thing. I think when it goes into that like guru status where it's not just, hey, here's some my merch, support me, or an ebook or coaching or
Mm-hmm.
training, whatever. It's like, I mean, if you're qualified, of course, but there's always the life coach guru thing that is very just right closely next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Is just be careful what advice you take, or if someone never challenges themselves or doesn't like, if someone acts like they know everything, that's a red flag. You always,
Mm-hmm.
if someone says something like simply as like, I don't know, I need to research that further, that's always like a green light, meaning
Yeah.
they're not gonna like have a big ego to pretend that they know everything to get you to either buy something or do something stupid. So yeah, that's another little hill that I decided to climb on that didn't need to, but yeah.
Government shutdowns to social media.
Yeah,
That's
totally goes together. Um, I think we were talking about that because we were talking about how there's still this kind of illusion that you can build your own life. The
Mhm.
American dream, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are using the internet for that these days. These days, I didn't know why I said that weird. They're like, I'm me included. That is how I built my business, was on the internet. I appreciate the internet. I love the internet, but it also has its downsides.
Mhm.
And that being, it's not easy to make a living on the internet. It's, probably why my body is deciding to rebel against me, because I've had to hustle to the point of like stressing myself out so much.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point where I'm like, something needs to change, or this isn't going to work long term. And I say that oddly because I've already been doing this for 8 years. But long term, past 8 years, something, needs to give slash change. And so if you're getting into you're starting your own business, just be aware, like don't lie to yourself, be mindful, don't just have this, toxic positivity about things. You have to be realistic. I'm not saying be negative, just make sure you're being realistic.
Yeah.
But
And make
yeah,
sure that you can actually give value to people.
yeah,
Don't just start a business to try and rip people off and make a buck. Like, make sure that you're actually like, your intentions are like, I have a skill or I have knowledge that can actually make people's lives better, and you should be monetized for that, for that knowledge and that time and effort.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. So
don't be a life coach.
no, unless you like really, really do have great values and you are just focused on helping people improve their lives. Like, I'm not gonna be negative about that at all. Just don't be a dick. Like, don't take advantage of people is really the
Yeah.
only thing that I want to say. Um, but yeah, so on that front, did you want to move on to how there is a former trans military person suing the Trump administration over the trans military ban? And yeah, do you want to
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
that one.
so it was filed November 11th in the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. 17 transgender Air Force Space Force vets spanning between 15 to 18 years of service have sued over their revoked early retirements that they were promised under Trump's January 28th ban. Um, so one of the head people is Master Sergeant Loden Ireland. He was 15 years an Afghanistan vet in the Air Force, and he's someone who uh, I mean, as someone in the trans community, I've seen his face a lot. He was honored by, I believe, Obama um, back when he was president. He's one of the highest, if not the highest, like ranking in the Air Force. He's been multiple tours. 15 years of your life, towards a career is huge. Um, and one, it's ridiculous enough that trans people aren't allowed to be in the military now when there's never been an issue with it. um it's that stupid as it is. But to, on top of that, revoke, you're kicking these people out who have devoted their lives, you know by a president who skated out of being in the military himself. So he was here to fucking say anything. But to revoke these people's retirements, and not just retirements, like their right to health care, they've earned it. Whether or not you think they should be in the military or not, they've earned it. And so it's sad that it's come to this, that it has to be a lawsuit. I hope that they win, because they definitely deserve it. I think anyone who puts their life on the line to protect us. I know that I couldn't do it. I'm a fucking coward. I couldn't. I can barely play Call of Duty. So like anyone who is willing to do that, they should get what they were promised. If they're promised retirement at a certain rate, they're promised health care for the rest of their life, they should get it. Anything that they were promised, that they signed up for, they should get. That's right. So yeah, they lose to they apparently it's between their pensions and healthcare, it's like $1 to $2 million per person. So we'll see. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I mean, obviously, I think it's bullshit that they weren't even gonna give him like retirement and stuff after spending 15 plus years, or 15, 18 years, um, serving the country. Like that's unheard of. There's no way that anyone would be okay with that if it was just some dude they decided to not give retirement and all that stuff after serving and all the stuff that he did without problem, despite being trans. Yeah, it's just shows that they are making it a point to be anti-trans. Like, they're being petty about it. They're doing stupid shit. Not just because, like, just to piss people off, just to, be against trans people and make their life harder and stuff. Which is also something, we found out the passport thing is back to, switching or putting the wrong gender marker on, or only the one that was like on your original birth certificate. So it's just, they will do anything they can to send the message of like, anything trans related that we can fuck with, we're going to make your life harder. And that sucks.
Well, the military also it's not just trans people. We've been seeing, thanks to Hegseth, a lot of prominent female people in the military have lost their jobs, have lost positions, whether it was positions that they were about to be promoted to. I believe it was like the head of the Navy. I believe it was a woman who had all these accolades, and she was 2 weeks away. She was given the role, And she was like 2 weeks away from like the swearing in ceremony, and she was told that she's no longer right for the role, but we've seen, a bunch of other, women in military that have also lost top, positions. And it's just sad, our now, stupid Department of War is just a joke. We've got someone making decisions who, can't do shit. So I don't know. It's really sad. Like I said, I hope they win. We'll see. But yeah, it's really sad that we would treat people who have dedicated their lives to this country this way. But we've seen it before. We've seen how just veterans get treated. We've had issues with this before. We've had people from 9/11 who went to Afghanistan originally and came back losing mental health benefits or whatever, just any reason to try and save a buck. And it's sad. It's very sad, but it's hard to see it, hard to see this continue or, advance. It's just sad.
Yeah, agreed. And it makes the trans community feel real loved, it makes us just love our country even more,
Yeah.
Yeah. But so what are we watching? What have we been watching? What have we been in doom scroll?
Doom scrolling. For some reason, my TikTok has been a lot of people getting pulled over. A lot of like entitled people, like CEOs getting pulled over and like thinking they're gonna get away with whatever. So that's been good. I also I follow this one account. It's like ant__Bree, who does like HR, and it's just like videos of her like on calls, like dealing with HR disasters and like just people being like really stupid. For some reason, that's entertaining to me because I'm just like, people are idiots. That, and then like, dogs being just cute and adorable. That's kind of been a lot on my TikTok. But TV wise, we've been rewatching Stranger Things since the final season's about to come out in a couple weeks. So the last couple weeks, we've been rewatching. We're, I think, midway on season 3 right now. So that's good. We've also started, they just did, if I know you're not into Dungeons and Dragons, Critical Role, but they had they have an animated series that came out a couple years ago, called Vox Machina, and now their second campaign just came out, which is called The Mighty Nine. It's animated, kind of Dungeons and Dragons series, really cool and funny. You probably would enjoy it. But they just sneak peeked one of the first episode of that series that's coming out this week. So we've been watching that, and that was really good. Movie wise, we just watched the new Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie, and I thought that was amazing. It was filmed beautifully. It was acted amazingly. Yeah, it was just great. What about you?
Still going through the seasons of Top Chef. So that's been fun. It's just, again, it's just a good way to check out and watch something somewhat positive. And then, but we have one episode left of, we've been on Peacock lately because that's where the Top Chef seasons are for free, where you don't have to pay $30 for a season. And so we've been getting more of what they put out, which is kind of nice because we never were paying attention to what is on Peacock. I don't think anyone really does as much.
We always forget we have it.
Yeah, like I've had it for free for probably over a year and not even touched it. But now we have. So they do have some good shit. So there's a a series they just released called All Her Fault. We've been watching that. I think it got bad reviews in the New York Times, but I'm not sure yet. Not sure why. It's pretty good. It's definitely kept my attention, and it has Dakota Fanning in it. She's all grown up now. She's a mom, which seems weird because she was a little child the last time I saw her. Yeah, so that we're about to finish, and then we'll just probably keep watching Top Chef, but we're also looking forward to Stranger Things. So we've talked about rewatching some of the seasons because it's been so fucking long. It's probably like almost starting it over again. But I don't know if we'll make it in time for the release. But I feel like we should at least do the last season because you need a refresher or maybe the first. I don't know.
Well, also, I think, at least what they've kind of been talking about is like a bunch of things linked back to those first seasons too. So that was kind of another reason for us to rewatch it, was to try and be like, okay, have it fresh in our minds. So when, hopefully when we're watching the 5th season, we'll be like, oh, I remember this connects to this. I know there's also, they did, the Duffer Brothers just did a Stranger Things. It's like a play or a musical. I'm not quite sure. It's a stage show, and it's supposed to be the character of the boy who ends up being Vecna. It's supposed to be his backstory before. That's supposed to really play into this 5th season. So I've seen a couple people on TikTok talking about like that like he went to the same school and he knew Joyce Byers and Hopper and like all that. So there's a connection there, and we'll see how that plays out in the 5th season. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. Are you going to watch any of it in the theaters?
I didn't know I know Netflix has like some Netflix theaters these days. I don't know if you saw that, but I
haven't seen that.
Okay,
I just know that. So I don't know if every single episode of the 5th season, or if it's just some of the later episodes of the 5th season, they will be playing them in theaters.
Interesting.
And they're the longer episodes. I think almost every episode I think there's only 5 episodes for this season, but each episode is like an hour and a half to 2 hours long. So it's basically the length of a movie.
Yeah. Which is interesting. They could have just split it up more, but I'm sure they had their reasons. But the downside is they're releasing like 2 episodes at a time. So you get like the first 2, and then like months later you get the next 2, and so on. I'm just like, goddamn, they not like have us wait long enough. So
yeah.
But I'm excited for that. But at least it gives us a little more time to like watch more of the past seasons. But yeah, so that's about all I can think of like looking forward to at the moment. But yeah, so
I did just go to the grocery store today and got my Stranger Things themed Eggo waffles.
I did see that they have those out right now. Which is great. I'm sure the waffle people are happy right now. The Eggo people are like, oh, it's the season. Stranger Things. We're gonna get more waffles purchased. But yeah, I think that's about it. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it. We've had a long catch up on what we've missed the past couple weeks, and yeah, I think we're still in the middle of all the drama. So again, everyone just stay positive. Focus on the good things we all have going on in life, and stay informed.
Yeah, for sure. Doom scroll, but not too much. And if
take
you are
care of your bodies.
Yes, and let us know in the comments. I don't know, anything. Bueller, hello, and we'll get back to you. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for holding out while we were on our little hiatus that wasn't planned. But yeah, we'll be here next week. Hope you enjoyed if you got this far. All right. Bye.